In my previous life, Marcus's mother threw $1 million at me, demanding I be Grace's stand-in, and I scornfully walked away. This time, I decided to take the money and properly serve my patron. When and his idealized first love checked into the hotel, I delivered silk pajamas to their room. Later, I had earned enough money, so I turned and left. But he abandoned his idealized first love and wanted to keep me by his side. What could I do? I didn't want him anymore. At the banquet, I elegantly entered arm in arm with Marcus, and all eyes were on us. Sarah got so many resources by latching on to a rich man, and now she actually has the nerve to enter with Marcus. There are so many scandals online, and she hasn't even responded. They're all true, what's there to respond to? Their voices were loud, but my smile remained radiant. Marcus, with a stern face, proposed a toast to the boss in front of him. At first, I didn't believe what they said online. The greasy-faced man raised his glass. It seems Ms. Sarah really is your girlfriend. Marcus swirled his glass, saying nothing. I acted like a robot, repeating everything Marcus's mother had instructed me to do. A qualified stand-in, a qualified wife. Qualified to be by his side, accepting all his needs, good or bad. Now, I just needed to take the glass from his hand and drink it all for him. Just as I was about to act, Marcus pressed down on my hand. No matter how tightly you cling, you're still just a stand-in. Know your place, Sarah, it's not your turn to drink this for me. His voice was cold, tinged with alcohol. I froze for a moment, then released his arm. My apologies. Marcus stared at me for a while, then suddenly laughed. Sarah, you really are interesting. A few days ago, you were the one who splashed liquor in my face, and now you're the one bowing your head, meek and submissive. Did you switch souls? Or are you having a fit? I kept my head down, not speaking for a long time. Yes, not long ago, I was just an unknown singer performing at a bar. Many people came specifically because I looked so much like Grace. Marcus was one of them. Marcus sat directly below the stage, lazily looking up at me. The next second, I was forcibly taken in front of Marcus. Here's 10,000, sing a song for Mr. Marcus. The person holding my hand behind my back said. I looked up and saw Marcus's disheveled eyes under his messy hair, then fiercely spat. So what if you're rich? You want me to sing? Dream on. I poured a glass of hard liquor over Marcus's hair, and I lost my job because of it. Now, with this old incident brought up, I felt a bit embarrassed. Until the greasy-faced man spoke, calling Marcus's name. Sarah is your girlfriend, so who is that lady? Hearing that, I looked up, following Marcus's gaze. It was Grace. The woman who had left the country for further studies to hone her acting skills, the woman who haunted Marcus's thoughts. Sure enough, the moment he saw her, Marcus's eyes flickered uncontrollably. It was Grace's first day back in the country, and people around her were insistently proposing toasts. She could only bend over, grimacing, and gulp down glass after glass. Marcus watched for a long time, then said, "It's none of my business." I suppressed the tremor in my heart and quietly stepped back. The greasy-faced man smirked, whispering into Marcus's ear, "I know it's none of your business. Because in a bit, she'll be in my bed." The next second, the whole room erupted in a commotion. Marcus landed a brutal punch on the man's face. "Anyone who dares touch Grace, I'll take their life." His eyes were bloodshot. Everyone froze, their gazes. The beside me huffed indignantly, "How can he be like this? You're clearly his girlfriend. Sarah, I believe in you, you're not like what they say online." Grace, standing next to Marcus, had tears well up in her eyes and swayed and collapsed into his arms. I thanked Chloe beside me and walked straight to RDS Grace. Then, I took the wine glass from her hand and drank it all. "Today, I'll drink Ms. Grace's toasts for her." I turned to Marcus with a bright smile. "She just got back, you should spend more time with her." I walked out of the lobby with a flourish. All of this was because of Marcus's mother. And also, because I was reborn. Eleanor found me. The woman decisively slapped $1 million on the table, her red lips uttering a few words. "I'll give you $1 million to stay by my son's side." In my previous life, I prided myself on being noble, splashing wine on Mr. Marcus's face and throwing the $1 million at Eleanor. Shouting, "So what if you're rich?" Ultimately, I was blacklisted by Marcus's family estate, unable to repay the debts, unable to afford medical bills, and died tragically. Fortunately, I was reborn. In this life, I understood a profound lesson. it's foolish not to take money when it's offered. So, facing Eleanor, I feigned a difficult smile. Do you think it's possible to add another zero? Eleanor parted her red lips. In the future, all resources of Marcus's family estate will be yours. Deal. I stood up decisively. Getting paid means doing the job right. I had to be a qualified bootlicker. Even when I moved into Marcus's family estate, the first thing Marcus said to me was, as expected, no one can resist money. To his sneer, I could only pretend not to care. I wore imitation makeup of Grace, practiced a singing voice very similar to Grace's, and greeted him home every day with Grace's smile. At night, he pressed me against the wall, whispering intimately. He said in a hoarse voice in my ear, "Baby, you look so beautiful. But no matter how beautiful you are, you're just a counterfeit." I can't count how many nights he murmured Grace's name. Just a small sum, and you're willing to be a bootlicker, giving up all your dignity. The media called me an industry plant, a shameless person. They were completely right, from the moment I debuted. I secured all of Marcus's family estate's resources, performing Grace's songs, acting in her plays, and stealing her boyfriend under the guise of being little. I paid them no mind, practicing my smile until it became a muscle reflex. It's okay, it's okay. One day, when I've repaid my family's debts and earned enough for medical bills, I can finally leave. On that day, I'll just be myself. Since the banquet, I hadn't seen Marcus for a long time. I lay on the sofa night after night waiting for him to come back. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. When he did, his white shirt was disheveled, carrying the scent of perfume. It was my perfume. No, accurately, it was Grace's. I smiled as I helped him take off his clothes and tossed them into the washing machine. Marcus watched me silently, his dark eyes unfathomable. "Have you been following the news lately?" he asked. I nodded honestly. The media captured him and Grace holding hands, shopping, and dating every day. They were embracing each other, looking incredibly sweet. "Congratulations, you got what you wanted." Marcus rushed over and grabbed my wrist fiercely. "She's back, do you think I still need you?" The emotion in his eyes was unclear. I averted my gaze, trying to pull my hand away. "The contract isn't over yet." "Hey." He let go. "My mother was right, you really are a woman of principle." Until one day, a huge uproar suddenly erupted online. It was said that Marcus and Grace were whispering intimately in a hotel, and a large number of reporters were already blocking the hotel entrance. I sighed, put down my phone, and got up to go to the hotel. All the way there, I felt an inexplicable unease. Isn't it common knowledge that Sarah and Marcus are together? Yeah, how did he get involved with Grace again? Microphones were shoved in my face, but I didn't say a word. I just quietly walked into the hotel, to the door of their room. At this moment, I finally stopped feeling like a stand-in. I was an anxious wife, waiting to be catching them in the act. The door opened. It was Grace, wearing silk pajamas. Grace's eyes were upturned, filled with disdain. "You're Sarah?" I nodded numbly. She smiled. "Thank you for keeping Marcus company all these days for me. You really are a sensible woman, always knowing your place." I couldn't help but look into the room. Marcus was tidying his clothes, and some unclear emotion in his eyes clogged my heart. Grace continued, "So, those reporters outside." "Don't worry." I interrupted her. "I won't let them disturb your lives." After saying that, I dodged Marcus's naked gaze and walked towards the crowd of reporters. "Miss Sarah, what do you have to say about your husband's infidelity?" I glanced at the reporter, then gave them a practiced smile. "Everyone has misunderstood. They didn't do anything, they just had important matters to discuss." "What matters need to be discussed in a hotel? Please, don't disturb Mr. Marcus and Ms. Grace's lives anymore." I didn't intend to say anything else, putting on my sunglasses and walking straight ahead. The reporters behind me gasped. It was Marcus. He publicly took Grace's hand, appearing openly in the flashing lights. But his gaze intentionally or unintentionally fell on me. "Let me introduce you to Grace, my girlfriend. As for Sarah, I've never acknowledged any relationship with her." Under the flashing lights, I struggled to control my expression behind my sunglasses. With his words, everything I had done today became a joke. Grace looked down at me, her expression triumphant. "Yes, what relationship could I have with him? Employer and employee, nothing more." Facing my employer's mocking gaze, I nodded slightly. "You can do whatever you want. And I just need to greet you with the most standard smile." The media prattled on, and I turned and got into the car. It's okay, Sarah. One last play. After this last play, I can finally leave completely. The last play was called Street EP by Step, a major production that advocated for children with intellectual disability. When found me, I shamelessly added a condition. The lead actress of Step by Step had to be me, Sarah. With the payment from this play, I could repay my debts and completely leave Marcus's family estate. It was crucial. And today happened to be the audition for the female lead of Step by Step. I took a deep breath, feeling inexplicably uneasy. Sure enough, I met Grace in the hallway. They all say you look like me, but on closer inspection, it's only a slight resemblance. She flashed a victorious smile at me. Now that I'm back, all the resources of Marcus's family estate, including Marcus, will be mine. I was silent for a moment, then smiled back at her. I'm sorry, but it's not time yet. The implication was that I was the one by Marcus's side right now. I'm doing this for money, but I'm taking money from Marcus's family estate. It has nothing to do with you, Grace. I can tolerate you doing anything, but right now, you can't take anything from me. Grace finally lost her composure, her smile faltered, and she slapped me. I promptly slapped her back. Only when the director called us over did Grace stop, glaring fiercely at me. Marcus sat beside the director, expressionless. The director signaled Grace to start first. The audition was for a big emotional breakdown scene, where the female lead, upon learning of a loved one's death and a career setback, cries hysterically, almost going insane, outside a hospital. Grace performed well, crying convincingly and looking piteous. But such a scene was quite cliched. The director had no reaction. I had prepared for this play for many years. The female lead's collapse, helplessness, and surrender flooded in all at once. I cried without restraint, then started laughing through my tears. It's okay, I'm still alive. It's okay, I can pull myself together. The director called cut. The whole room erupted in enthusiastic applause. I knew that even if my performance was worse than Grace's, the lead role would still be mine. Until, who had been silent, threw down his pen. The female lead will be Grace. My heart stopped. Grace pursed her lips and smiled, her upturned eyes fixed on me. Then, Marcus walked straight towards me. I know you want this female lead role. But his back, you don't have a chance. His voice was cold, and my heart sank. I know how important Step by Step is to you. You've been longing for it since the moment you entered Marcus's family estate. If you want it, kneel down and plead with me now. In all the years I'd been in Marcus's family estate, for the first time, I felt at a loss. I couldn't lose this play. If I did, all my efforts would be in vain. Memories of my previous life began to flood my mind. My parents left behind a huge debt, and my brother and I were beaten to within an inch of our lives by debt collectors. My brother had an intellectual disability, but fortunately, I had grown up by then and could sing at a bar to support our family. Just when I was finally discovered and had the opportunity to perform on a bigger stage, we got into a car accident. I saw myself, overwhelmed by enormous debt and medical bills. I saw my brother's life fading before my eyes. I saw myself die tragically by the riverside. And I saw Marcus, the man who was making me kneel, in this life. I didn't hesitate, I plopped down onto my knees. Please, Marcus, I beg you. I lowered my head, tears splashing onto the floor. After a long moment, I heard a scoff from above me. If it were the old you, perhaps I really would have softened. But now, you're truly worthless. My head swam, and all the whispers around me turned into a blur. Everything went black, and I completely fainted. In a daze, I seemed to feel Marcus holding me tightly in his arms. When I woke up again, I was lying in a stark white hospital room. The doctor looked at me sternly. Do you know what your physical condition is? I tilted my head, not speaking. After a long moment, I said, don't tell the man outside. I didn't want him to pity me anymore. How pathetic, destined to die in both lives. But then I thought, people are bound to die anyway. It's just. I thought of Leo. I wanted him to live, but I didn't even know how he would live without me. Marcus rushed into the hospital room, his eyes red. He pressed me onto the bed, his hands clutching my throat. You've been taking birth control pills? It was the first time I'd seen such intense emotion in his eyes. I was silent, unsure what to say. His grip was strong, and I was in so much pain I couldn't breathe. After a long moment, he finally loosened his hands, his whole body trembling. Do you hate me that much? All these years, you've even harmed your own body? I laughed, louder and louder. Yes, I hate you very much. Marcus, I'm just a pathetic servant who'd do anything for money. Please, pity me, and stop tormenting me, okay? Marcus slammed the door shut, leaving only a brief statement: the female lead of Step by Step will definitely not be you. Walking out of the hospital, the sunlight was exceptionally dazzling. The doctor told me that my brother had ultimately died in the cold hospital room. Strangely, I was much calmer than last time. I walked distraught on the way to Marcus's family estate, feeling that everything I had done before was a joke. God giving me a chance to start over was even more absurd. Reaching the front door, I tried entering the code again and again, but it always showed incorrect password. While I was wondering, the door opened from the inside. It was Grace. Her face was rosy, her arms crossed, her expression one of dissatisfaction, as if I had interrupted her afternoon nap. Photos and furniture had been changed, and all traces of my life in the house had already been thoroughly cleaned away. I told you, everything will only be mine. Before, I praised you for being sensible, but after the last audition, I finally understood, you're also stupid. I had no strength to argue with her, so I pushed her aside and walked in. You're right, I said, I'll pack my things and leave immediately. Behind me, I seemed to hear her mutter through clenched teeth, wimp. I wasn't a wimp, I was just tired. I had very few things left in this house. When I came, I only brought a very small suitcase. When I left, it was the same. But I searched everywhere, the safe under the bed, under the pillow, the backyard. The more I searched, the more desperate I became. I rushed to Grace, giving her a fierce shove. Where's my plushie? A very small, dirty plushie. Grace shoved me back, looking at me bewildered. What plushie? Oh, you mean that one? She seemed to remember, and I looked at her with hope. I opened the safe, and there was some weird stuffed animal in there. Of course I threw it away. At that moment, I seemed to hear my heart shattering. I lunged at her like a madwoman, hitting her, cursing her, slapping her without mercy. Grace cursed me back, calling me crazy, and tried to avoid me, until came in and pulled me away. You're insane. Seeing Grace immediately burst into snotty tears. In all the years I'd been in Marcus's family estate, it was the first time I felt so utterly helpless. My whole body was trembling, crying uncontrollably. Do you know what it means? Do you know how important it is to me? Marcus looked incredulous. It's just a stuffed animal. No. How could it just be a stuffed animal? Marcus, after all these years, you still don't understand anything. Do you know how many nights I waited for you on the sofa? How many times I was forced to smile and drink for you, when only it in the safe kept me company? How could it just be a plushie? I pushed him away, crying so hard I couldn't stand upright, and made to run out to find it. Marcus held me tightly. Marcus, just let her be crazy, ignore her, it's just a piece of junk. Shut up. Marcus ROA. Red, it was the first time he had ever lost his temper with Grace. Grace flinched in surprise. Then, she gritted her teeth and smiled. You're protecting her now. Do you know why she cares so much about that thing? Marcus's grip loosened. How ridiculous, Sarah seems like your bootlicker, but she's never thought of you. The man lying in the hospital, he's the one Sarah has always, slap he. Marcus stood up and slapped her across the face. I sat on the floor watching the farce, only feeling how noisy, how tired, how sad it all was. Marcus. I turned my head and called out to him. The contract is over, let me go. Marcus froze, seeing the suitcase beside him. What nonsense are you talking about? He narrowed his eyes, as if finding it amusing. Not enough money, is that it? He seemed to understand, pulling out a large wad of cash from a nearby drawer and throwing it on me. Is that enough? Not enough, right? Here's another wad. I watched him throw money like a madman, my heart completely calm. Marcus, I don't care for your money anymore. The next second, I couldn't breathe and collapsed onto the floor. Marcus eventually found out about my limited time. I guessed he told the doctor he was my husband. The doctor's expression was incredibly sorrowful. For the remaining days, just spend more time with her. What do you mean incurable disease? I'll give you all my money, can't you cure it? He was like a bomb, traveling across the country, desperately demanding doctors save me. But an incurable disease isn't something that can just be cured. All he received was a sigh. I looked at him, and the more I looked, the less I understood him. He was the one who previously said he hoped I'd die soon, and now he was the one desperately trying to keep me alive. Perhaps he truly needed someone by his side, someone who would always bow to him. But unfortunately, I wouldn't be that person anymore. The first thing he said when he learned I was dying was, "Sarah, you really don't care about yourself at all. Dignity in life, you'd give up anything for money." He paused, seeming to recall my resolute expression as I left, and his voice softened. "Now you don't even want the money. I will never let you die." Lying in bed, I thought over and over about the story behind that plushie. At that time, I had just found a singing job, and my salary was barely enough for my brother and me to live on. But we still had to hide, fearing that debt collectors would come and break our legs again. One afternoon, my brother, bouncing excitedly, handed me $100. He stammered, telling me he found it on the ground. I coldly told him to return it. A short while later, he came back with an ugly plushie, saying it looked like his sister, and gave it to me. The plushie looked like it cost no more than $10. I knew he must have been tricked. But the way he twirled around, hugging the plushie and calling me sister, immediately brought tears to my eyes. All these years, through all the tossing and turning, I had never for a moment lost it. Yet had thrown it away like trash. As I thought about it, I couldn't help but cry. "You're heartbroken just because of a plushie another man gave you?" He laughed sarcastically. "The thing you're so fixated on is just a worthless stuffed animal." I looked up at him, exhausted. "I'm tired, Marcus, let me go." Marcus's face was cold, showing no mercy. "The contract isn't over. Don't even think about leaving." I watched his retreating back as he slammed the door, my heart filled with despair. I lay in the hospital for a long time, and my body finally recovered a bit. I was discharged from the hospital but received a call from my assistant. She told me that I had been cast as the female lead of Step by Step. I was shocked, flipping through the news on my phone about the change in lead actress. I discovered that many of Grace's resources and trending topics had been pulled, and she had become the second femme ale lead, with many intense acting scenes opposite me. I sighed. Step by Step drew its material from children with intellectual disability, dedicating itself to giving them a voice. And coincidentally, the material for this play was from interviews conducted with my brother and me when we were very young. When Step by Step was announced for screen adaptation, a blurred photo of my brother was published in the newspaper. He was as excited as a puppy, babbling and running, shouting, "Sister, I'm on TV." Thus, being cast as the female lead of Step by Step also became one of the conditions between Eleanor and me. Everything had changed. Making it my legacy project was also quite good. Soon after, I joined the cast. Grace had completely changed. She no longer had her former brilliance. She had become dull and lackluster, her eyes like still water. However, she acted with great intensity. She portrayed the villain vividly, giving the character a soul. Until one scene, the core of the entire play. The second female lead, knowing the female lead was allergic to milk, still forced her to drink the glass of milk in front of everyone. Grace's eyes were fierce as she watched me drink the white liquid. "This is the end." She smiled and walked towards me, whispering, "Sarah, do you know why I hate you?" I froze. She had called me by my real name. "Because you're actually the one who gets everything effortlessly, and I'm just a tool Marcus used to anger you. A disposable tool." I suddenly understood. "You don't love Marcus at all, do you? You only approached him for money and resources." Grace laughed. "Now I've lost everything, all because of you." My stomach began to ache severely. What went into my stomach just now was not the prop the crew prepared, but paint. I writhed on the ground in pain, and everyone in the crew thought I was acting brilliantly. "You got all this and you don't even cherish it. Sarah, do you know how long I waited for all this?" Marcus Black clisted me, "You won't live either." I fainted from the pain, and a crowd of people surrounded me. Then, Grace's hysterical screams gradually faded, and I heard an ambulance, the clamor of people. When I woke up, Marcus was by my bedside, holding my hand tightly. I had been taken to the hospital and had my stomach pumped in time, so I was fine. But was completely finished. Because of this incident, the filming of Step by Step was forced to stop. My body also couldn't sustain me for continued work. "Marcus," I spoke. "Do you know why I always took birth control pills?" Marcus was silent for a moment. "It doesn't matter anymore. Just stay alive." I shook my head. It mattered a lot. During the period when Grace had just returned, at some point, I unexpectedly found out I was pregnant. I still remember how I felt at that moment. Fear, anxiety, sadness, but more than that, excitement. I returned to the empty house, touching my still flat belly, unable to calm down for a long time. That day, I received a call from Marcus. The person on the other end told me to come over and finish the alcohol he hadn't drunk. I arrived at the scene, and he had a drunken Grace in his arms. "Drink it for her," he had said then. People around us cheered, calling Grace sister-in-law and me Marcus's bootlicker. I forced a smile and cleared the table of all the alcohol. They threw money in my face, tilting my chin up and praising me for being so sensible. When dawn broke, I was alone, enduring the severe pain as I walked to the hospital. I had a sudden realization. This was Marcus's and my child. Would truly like this child? Even if it was born, would it be happy? I didn't know, and I didn't want to know. I wasn't his wife, I was a stand-in bought with money. What I had to do was everything he wanted. What I had to do was strive to escape Marcus's family estate, to keep myself and my brother alive. But I was reborn, and heaven still gave me nothing. Money can't solve everything, but why can change many things. Marcus listened to all this, then lowered his head and cried. He stroked my hand, muttering repeatedly, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." "You have nothing to apologize for, Marcus. You were my benefactor, my fortune in this life, I just didn't seize the opportunity." In the following days, Marcus often came to the hospital to see me. He announced his retirement from the entertainment industry. For my sake, he learned to cook, learned to tell stories, learned many things. But I just sat blankly by the window, not saying a word. Not wanting to say a word. With makeup removed, and the practiced smile gone, I was finally Sarah. Actually, I didn't look like her at all, did I? Haggard, weak, incompetent. At night, Marcus held me in his arms, telling me stories to lull me to sleep. Occasionally, he would also talk about many things from the past. He said the first moment he saw me, he thought of no one else but me. He said he prided himself on being able to solve everything with money, and seeing me willing to bow for money only affirmed that belief. He said he had always loved me. As I listened, I grew sleepy. I showed him the scars on my body. The scars were shocking, one after another. Those were from being beaten while trying to evade debts. In my previous life, these scars also hindered me. They were too deep, hard to cover with makeup. Before I signed the contract with Eleanor, I was knocked unconscious, taken to Marcus's bed, drugged, and countless inappropriate photos were taken and sent to Marcus's phone. I spat fiercely in Marcus's face and told him to get lost. "So what if you're rich?" Marcus sighed, never laying a finger on me. He found people to beat up those who kidnapped me, then threw clothes at me and told me to leave. "You said you loved me, and I had feelings for you too. But your love was nothing more than stuffing a gilded cage. If it sang happily, you'd smile, but if it sang badly, you'd pluck a feather. It was unequal. Just like tea. Money you stepped on, I treasured every penny of it. The chasm was too great. I felt Marcus's embrace behind me, and the more I felt it, the colder it became. I cried silently, then wiped away my tears. Sarah wouldn't easily bow her head. One day, I gathered my strength and went to find Eleanor. The woman who had so easily thrown $1 million at me now only sighed softly. "You know I found you for more than just your resemblance to Grace. I can tell my son likes you very much, and I like you too." I forced a smile and transferred $1 million to her account right in front of her. Eleanor was stunned. I stood up and bowed deeply to her. "Thank you for being willing to help me and for giving me this opportunity. Marcus's family estate is my benefactor." Eleanor also stood up and hugged me deeply. I walked straight out of Marcus's family estate without looking back. I didn't go back to the hospital, instead, I went to see Grace. Through the glass, Grace's face showed an uncharacteristic serenity. In her eyes, there still seemed to be the ashes of ambition, resentment, defiance, and perhaps, a sense of release. "Speaking of which, we could be considered contract partners." I stared at her and said, "I can see how good your acting is." Choosing to go abroad for further studies at the peak of her career was already impressive. "What does it matter? After returning, I still have nothing," she said faintly, "no resources, no background. I could only climb the ladder through Marcus's family estate." I shook my head. "You might not believe it, but I've lived once before." I smiled. "If you also had such an opportunity, remember not to go down the wrong path. Persist in conquering the audience with your acting and talent. I believe there will surely be a place for you." After saying that, I walked out. I seemed to hear Grace's quiet "thank you." But I thought, apologies or forgiveness, none of it mattered anymore. Soon after, news reported that Grace had committed suicide in prison. I always hoped she would have a chance to start over. Then, without meeting Marcus again, or me, she would stand on the awards stage with her acting and her strength, proudly saying thank you for all her years of hard work. At least, that was the scene in my dreams. I remembered less and less. I only remembered Marcus visiting me daily, telling me many stories from the past. The more he spoke, the more I forgot. Later, on some unknown day, a distant gravestone suddenly came to mind. It was the gravestone of the person I loved and cherished most. I told Marcus I wanted to go there with him. I remembered sleeping under the bridge, holding my brother, and kind people always lent me their worn blankets. I remembered debt collectors waving sticks, and we'd cover ourselves with newspapers. Luckily, we were so dirty and thin that it always worked. I knelt before the grave, leaning against the gravestone. Strangely, the gravestone felt warm, as if it still held some heat. I also remembered finally finding a job, but I was often bullied, which left me with many problems. The day of the car accident, my brother and I couldn't have been happier. When the truck crashed into us, my silly brother desperately held me with his thin body. "Sis, you sing so beautifully, you have to sing for more people in the future." Those were the last words he said to me. But I still failed. I lost everything. I tried my best to hold on to everything with money, but I forgot that hardship and life were like two insurmountable mountains. How could money alone support them? Marcus stood beside me, silently staying by my side. He quietly looked at the name Leo on the gravestone, silently listening to my entire story. My timid parents fled from their debts, leaving behind a timid me, while my only strong brother, who had an intellectual disability, had his life taken by a sudden car accident. The person I wanted to love, I couldn't. The person I wanted to keep, I couldn't. "So that man was your brother." Marcus's voice was low, laced with realization and apology. "Everything you've done for me all these years, it was all for him, wasn't it?" His red-rimmed eyes looked at me, pleading for an answer. I looked back at him, unable to speak. I desperately wanted to say, yes. Every minute, every second I spent with you, I was desperately fighting down my disgust. Everything I gave was simply so my brother and I could live normal lives. But I couldn't bring myself to say it. My thoughts drifted back to a long, long time ago. Back then, I hadn't been reborn yet. I walked along the riverside. The moon at night was dazzlingly bright, drawing me towards the deeper water. Unpayable debts, wounds that had gone numb from pain, witnessing my brother's death firsthand. Even though I had poured liquor over his head, spat in his face, and viciously told him to get lost. Yet his voice came from the bank. "Hey, the moon is actually more beautiful from the bank." I stopped in my tracks. Perhaps driven by curiosity, I turned and walked towards the soft sand. I wasn't thinking of ending my life. "Leave me alone." That's what I said back then. Later, I remembered that line, "The moon is more beautiful from the bank," for a very long time. So long that now, as I stared at the man in front of me, the more I looked, the more he became a stranger. It suddenly dawned on me. Perhaps the man in this life wasn't at all the boy who had told me where the moon looked more beautiful. The timelines converged, yet in this life, I had no such memory. Perhaps it had hinted at the ending long ago, but I refused to believe it. I stubbornly stayed by his side, clinging to the sorrow tied to the moon, and to the promise of starting over. "Marcus." I raised my hand and touched his face. Everything before my eyes gradually blurred. "I once truly loved you." I raised my hand towards the sky. In the final moment before my eyes, I seemed to touch, within reach, the life, freedom, and love I longed for. After my death, reporters released footage of my brother and me being interviewed from years ago. Only then did the public learn I had a brother with an intellectual disability. This was why I stubbornly wanted Bubiao. Marcus told my entire story, then completely disappeared. She paid off all her debts, and walked freely towards a wider sky. This was the headline the news wrote for me. It was also fortunate that Bubiao, which had been forcibly terminated, gained widespread public attention, prompting the director to pick up the script again. The new female lead was Chloe, the actress who had defended me at the banquet. I still remember her saying, "Sarah, I believe in you." Even now, she believed in me as always, telling my story for me. She won the Best Award for this show. Standing on the awards stage, she said the words I had most wanted to say in my life. Hello everyone, my name is Sarah. I am finally free. Thank you for watching today's story. If you liked this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.